Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be talking about a question that I get often in my classes and sessions, which is, will this get easier? And so we're going to talk about kind of the two angles this question might be addressing. Is one, will this practice make life easier and what I'm going through easier? And two, will it just get easier to be mindful and present and engage with the practice? And the answer is yes, and with explanation. So for the first question, does it make life easier, what I'm going through easier? One side of this is no, because life is never going to be easy forever. We've talked about this before, the natural ebb and flow of life, the ups and downs, the suffering, the hard moments, the pain, the aging, everything we deal with in life is still going to be there. It's not going to give you a perfect life. Or make kind of the journey of life easier in and of itself. What it makes easier and smoother and more peaceful is how we relate to it, how we show up for it, and how we experience it. So as we practice more and more, we learn how to use our mindfulness in all the different crazy situations that come up in life, all those ups and downs. And it helps us to be less resistant, to be less, have less of a fight with them, to say, this shouldn't be happening to me. That kind of resistance eases away, and it helps us to develop that deeper understanding and the ability to kind of step back and just observe. This is the journey of life. This is what I'm feeling in it. This is what I'm going through. And this is what's going to support me. So when we're more peacefully present, even in those really hard moments, they seem less overwhelming, daunting, and all-encompassing. We take all those remembrances all the time that everything ebbs and flows, comes and goes, manifests and disappears, and is always transforming. So we don't get so caught up in each moment and each circumstance. We've also developed the ability to look at each experience as a possibility to deepen our understanding of self and others and the world. And that every experience of suffering can deepen our compassion for self and others. And so when we take this perspective to what we're going through in life, no, it does not end the suffering of life, does not end the struggle, but it helps us to be more internally at peace through them. So it does make them easier because we're not creating that extra suffering within in everything that we do. The second question is, does it get easier to practice? And absolutely yes, but it does not mean that practice does not take effort and conscious awareness and attention. So we can't just think, oh, I take enough classes and this will just happen for me. It will ease the suffering for me. When people enter into mindfulness, I always tell them it's a lifelong practice. You think about it like exercise or doing physical therapy or eating well. You can't just do it for 3 months and then expect it to support you for the rest of your life or shift the entire rest of your life. It's a shift that you're making, that you're creating an agreement with self that I'm going to continue doing this to support you. And just like exercise or eating well, the more we do it And the more we focus on the benefits, the more we want to do it. So the increased motivation to continue with it. So this makes it easier to keep engaging with it. It doesn't feel like something we have to force ourselves to do. It doesn't feel like an obligation or like a set kind of routine we have to make. It becomes more natural, more ingrained. And we definitely have a deeper motivation to do it. And it does start becoming easier to be mindful as we continue practicing, because we remember how good it feels. We remember how much it serves us. We remember how much it creates that internal peace, which in turn helps us to show up for our loved ones, the world, our work, everything we're doing as the person we want to be. We notice how it generates more happiness and positivity in our lives. And all of this makes it easier to want to do it. It doesn't mean that we get to do it less or that we get to forget our practice. We're still engaging, we're still doing it just as often. It just becomes a much more happy joy to engage with it. And we start being aware that the more we engage with it, so, I say the evolution of practice is like, we start with more formal practices that we have to really consciously, intentionally engage in, like seated practices, or, I tell people to choose a time, like when you're chopping vegetables or brushing your teeth or doing walking meditation. So it is more allotted times. And then as we progress, we notice that those energies and mindsets that we take in those practices start to blossom and show up when we're not doing an intentional practice. So it shows up in just the way we're moving through life. When we have a task to do, we do it mindfully. As we're walking through our day, we walk mindfully, versus I have to set aside time and do the mindful walking. Now, continuing to do the formal practices does support us, especially when we get forgetful, when we start moving away from our practice. Those formal practices will be with us for life, and it gets easier to engage with that mindful energy even when we're not in formal practices. And so as both of these things progress alongside of each other, of life get feeling easier because there's not so much battle, we have more mindful presence, we're making intentional decisions, and it's getting a little easier for us to be mindful all throughout our day. It gets easier for us to sink into those formal practices and just soak up as much wonderful mindful energy from them. So as these are growing together, you get this sense of just living mindfully, and it becoming easier to live in this mindful state. And it just smooths out the ride. Like, think of it as like a really cushy shock system on your four-wheel drive vehicle. So the terrain of life is still the same. There's still as many rocks and bumps and ups and downs, but this mindfulness is this really cushy shock system that as you're riding through life, you have this support system that comes alongside you and gives you a little bit of cushion, a little softness, a little, inside that car, there's a more smooth ride and a bit more peace in there. So yes, it does get easier Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that we stop engaging. It means that the engagement becomes more natural and more integrated into everything that we do and becomes our shock system through everywhere that we journey in life. So I invite you this week to look at that. Use your awareness to notice how mindfulness is showing up in your life, how it's supporting you. What is your motivation in practice? How is it growing? What impact is it making on everything that you do and say? And the more we stay aware of this, then the increased motivation we have to do it and the increased awareness of how much it truly is showing up for us and supporting our lives and making them a little bit easier. If you need a little extra boost and joy and happiness in your practice, then please consider joining us for the day-long mindful meditation in nature. This is the best way to, in my opinion, engage with your practice, love it, enjoy it, soak it in, is using Mother Nature and her great energy and our communal energy to support our practice. So that's happening on September 26th. And then our next class series are beginning in October. I'm doing a intro to mindful yoga, again through the rec center. And I'm also doing a mindful relationships class in my studio. And don't forget that you can also get my past books and my new book to help your practice at home. So I hope that you all are finding a little ease and joy in your practice and life, and I hope to see you very soon.